Okay, so this is our seventh chapter that we're releasing for the Vital Signs 18. We have been doing this in waves just because we are all still remaining at home. The University of Baltimore is not going to open up at least until August, so that's where we are. This is the seventh chapter, Housing and Community Development, which is obviously such an important chapter for our city and for our neighborhoods. So I'm going to dive right in just to give you a little bit of overview of who we are before I show you the data. We are part of the National Neighborhood Indicators Partnership, which is a learning community of over 30 cities around the country. We're trying to bring those best practices back here to Baltimore so that all of you have access to this kind of information. Every year we issue the Vital Signs Report, and that is a data set of over 100-ish indicators, over 50 different sources, and we partition all that data into these topic areas. And so for today, we're releasing Vital Signs Housing and Community Development. 6 of the other chapters were already published earlier last month and the month before. The only one that's left is Housing and Education and Youth. So we're not sure when we're going to be able to release that, but it will be before Baltimore Data Day, which is in July, starting July 20th. We have what's new this year in Vital Signs is that all of our chapters are now interactive narratives that you can take a look at, and I'll show you how to do that when I get into the website demo, which is right now. Okay, so for those of you that are not familiar with our website, you can access our website by going to let me start sharing my screen again so that you can see where I'm going. And so our website, you can always Google BNIA, Baltimore Neighborhood Indicators Alliance, but have this as part of your fixed bookmark, bniajfi.org. And we do trainings in communities all the time. If anybody ever, obviously right now we're doing them virtually, so if you needed to do a community-based training on how to use our website, feel free to let us know. But typically when you come into our website, the things that you're looking for is you're looking for data by community, looking for data by topic, and looking for data by indicator. If you really know that you really just want to get in there and look at vacant and abandoned housing, you can go ahead and type and click on the indicator that you want. Obviously today I'm going to focus in on topic area, and then I'm going to show you how some of the things have been, so what are we seeing in Vital Signs 18, and focus on the housing and community development chapter. So the way I'm going to get to the chapter is I'm first going to go to Vital Signs up here on the left-hand tab and go to our full report. So if you go into the full report area, you can see all of the other sections that we've already released, and you can even see a video of when we released that one, and then obviously this one will go up after today. And housing and community development is now a full interactive story map. So you can not only read the report, but then you can also get access to some of the interactive web features. So first thing obviously to look at is not only the narrative. If you are unfamiliar with Baltimore or want to take a look at how we've kind of compiled things that have happened in the last year, that's what the narrative is about. And then at the top here, you can see different indicators around different topics. So the housing market, obviously one of the first things that we look at is how many houses were sold, and then of course what the median sales price was in that year. And so now in this interactive website, you can actually come in and look at, interactively look at the sales price. There's a narrative that goes with it, and then a link directly to the actual data on our website itself. But you can see that the sales price has gone up a little bit, and obviously where in the city we have the highest rates of median sales price. And then if you click on any one of the communities, you can see how that community has actually changed in sales price over time. So that's a kind of, again, new feature. If you're looking at different places and how median sales price has fluctuated over the last 8 years, you can use this story map to take a look at that. The other thing that we're looking at, in trying to be responsive to COVID-19 is that we know for now that there's, for example, a eviction moratorium, but we don't exactly know where that's going to be a problem once that moratorium is up. And so we highly recommend folks taking a look at this rent and mortgage unaffordability index, both of them here side by side, because where we have kind of high rates of unaffordability may be harbingers for where we might have an eviction problem once once landlords can get back to actually going through that process. So for example, Edmondson Village out here has pretty high rates of both rent unaffordability and mortgage unaffordability. And we are pretty excited, thanks to Cheryl for figuring this out, but if you click on one of the maps, you'll actually get it to open up on the other. So that's super exciting for us here. And so you can take a look at the relationship between rent unaffordability and mortgage unaffordability simultaneously now on the website. The other thing to look at is, of course, the tax credits. We have from working with our finance department, we have the three main homestead, homeowners, and historic preservation. And one of the things, we don't have great information every year on owner occupancy, but the homestead tax credit is certainly a sign of owner occupancy, right? Because you can only claim the homestead tax credit if it is your primary residence. And we are seeing pretty dramatic declines in this homestead tax credit over the last 8 years. Something to think about: why aren't people choosing Baltimore residents to be their primary residence? What is going on here? And then looking at different neighborhoods to figure out, where we have serious declines in the homestead tax credit uptake. On the one hand, we're not sure why this is true. If maybe the value is going down and so they're not picking up the homestead tax credit, but this is a sign that people are not choosing to use their Baltimore City address as their primary address. And the other one to think about is around permits of where we're having rehabilitation happen. And so our rehabilitation permits, sorry, this is demolition, but our rehabilitation permits are happening in different parts of the city. We just looked up kind of Cherry Hill having this kind of surge in rehabilitation permits, and there's a lot of activity in Cherry Hill, which is pretty exciting for that community. And then the map is of demolition. And one of the things you can see about demolition, obviously Project Core is helping kind of fund some of these demolition projects. And then also, the city's efforts to make sure that demolition is a part of kind of community redevelopment. And you can see the community investment areas in the city are largely getting this kind of demolition activity. And then the last one is, of course, our vacant and abandoned housing, which is an indicator that, a lot of people come to us for. And here on this map, you can see where we have city-owned vacancy and where you have just vacant notices themselves. So even though we have a lot of vacancy in some of our neighborhoods, we may not have a lot of city ownership on it. And then you can go ahead and click and you can see where we have percentage of the properties that are owned by the city of Baltimore and just where we have vacancy in general. So this is Penn North, and then you can see kind of where you stand in terms of the citywide average. So that's the story map. Hopefully good bedside reading for all of you to take a look at in the next couple of days. But then after you've kind of read this part of the report, I'm going to go back to our main website and show you how to interactively look at some of these data just by topic. So if I go back to our homepage and then go by topic, you can then go into housing and community development and look at each one of these indicators and do your own kind of analysis and data visualization for yourself. So for example, going back to that rent unaffordability, if that's something that you were interested in, you can kind of see where we have low rent unaffordability means that more than 30%, how many households are spending more than 30% of their income towards rent. And so you can see some of these areas that are obviously also high income have low rent inaffordability. And then some of these areas like Edmondson Village showing up as having high rent unaffordability. This is the first time that it's at the top of the list here, and something that we, as many of you that are housing advocates, really need to think about, especially again, thinking about what this might mean when the eviction procedures might go back in place. And you can see where we have. And then if you want to compare over time, you know, what's been going on in the last 5 years, you can come up here to compare years, update your selection, look at kind of changes in each one of our neighborhoods over time. I'm going to go back to rent affordability. What shows up automatically was the very first indicator. And then you can then look at changes. So where have we seen dramatic declines in rent and affordability? So areas like Howard Park, Greater Rosemont, this is good news. And then the opposite of where we're seeing, you know, vast increases in rent affordability. And you can see Edmondson Village shows up near the top, but then also right next door to Edmondson Village is Morrill Park, Violetville, and Glen Falstaff. So these are all on the west side of town. And so just thinking about, you know, housing advocacy, you know, how you might use this information, that's the way to think about using some of these indicators. All of these are copyable. You can create an Excel spreadsheet, you can do a PDF, and then I will show you one other way that we can look at the data. I'm just going to back up for a second. And if we go back into rent affordability and click on rent affordability, then you get a dedicated page just for that one indicator. You can see data visualizations by bar graphs, and you can see where we have high rent and this disparity really for across all of our neighborhoods, Edmondson Village unfortunately being at the top here, and then Canton being here at the bottom. And then you can see trends of how you can see in general the city has been going down in terms of rent and affordability, but in contrast, you know, Edmondson Village has been going up. And so it's bucking kind of the citywide trend, and this is a very clear way for anybody, again, advocacy in your neighborhood with your elected officials to be able to show people what's going on in different neighborhoods. And then finally, you can click on map and you can see an interactive map that basically has all of this data here for you to take a look at. And then finally, you can even download it as a PDF down here at the bottom. So that's just what's on our website. What's super exciting is, and this is meant to be for users that are kind of the occasional user, really just wants to take a look and explore data. But for the heavier user, what we have is kind of going back to our homepage and under Vital Signs, we have an entire Vital Signs open data portal. Again, folks like us get very excited about this. And in this Vital Signs open data portal, you can then go ahead and actually, you can look at all the data. We are obviously focusing in on housing and community development. You can actually do a search if you'd like by anything, for example, vacancy, all of the same searches that you saw on the other ones you can get here. And then I will probably ask Cheryl to maybe either drive or tell me what is the best thing to show, but I might go in here and show vacant and abandoned property if you wanted to go ahead and click on that. And you get what's called a landing page for all the data associated with this particular indicator. So I am gonna open it up for Cheryl to walk us through things that she wants us to learn about with our open data portal. If she can. She needs to be unmuted, Logan. Can you do that, or do I have to do that?
I think I might be able to do it. All right, go ahead and try it now, Cheryl.
All right, great. Can everyone hear me now?
And then if anybody else wants to be unmuted, just let us know in the chat and we'll do that.
I just want to double check. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, I was actually having some technical difficulties a few moments ago, so I wasn't sure if I'd even be able to hop on. So yes, as Seema was describing, we have these landing pages for all of our indicators that you can download. So on each of these landing pages, we have a definition, so the full explanation of what the indicator is, its source, its years available, and a little preview of the features that are in the download, so the attributes, so you can see the years that are in there. You can also preview the data that's in here by clicking on the Data tab that's blue next to Overview. Again, this just gives you a little bit of a preview of what this data looks like in a spreadsheet format. So you can either click on some of those CSAs in that table, or you can click on the map above and it will highlight the table. You can also do some filtering while you're there. So there's a little icon that looks like a little, I always think it looks like a funnel. It also looks like a flashlight pointing upwards. If you click on that, it'll allow you to do some data filtering on that column. So just, let's say you're interested in finding, you know, like communities that have a really high vacancy rate, like above a certain threshold, you can enter in those values and it will update your table to just show those communities. And it will also update that map. So Seema just did a little playing around with it. 20 to 0, might want to do 0 to 20 or
All right, 20 to
for this
35.
demo.
There we go.
Yeah, let's try that. Let's see what we've got. So there, we have some of those communities that fall within that specific range.
And
So what you can do, I'm sorry.
Sorry, you can also see them on the map, the ones that you filtered.
Yes. So what you can do with this data, over on the right-hand side, we've got a little button that says download. So if you click on that, it'll give you a few different options of how do you want to download this data. So you can download in a spreadsheet. So this would be a CSV file that you can open up in Excel. And then if you're a GIS person, a map maker like me, you can download the data into 3 different spatial formats, the KML, shapefile, or file geodatabase. What's also cool is that you have the option, do you want to download all 55 CSAs, or do you just want to download that filtered view? So you can choose either the full data set or the filtered data set and just grab those records you're interested in. If you want to take it another step further, if you're like really geeking out and you have your own visualization that you would like to create, we have APIs so that rather than downloading the data and hosting it yourself, you can point to our data. So again, you can point to the full data set or this filtered view. So we have all of these indicators now out, not just housing like we were talking about today, but if you wanted to check out any of our indicators, you can do keyword searches, you can explore by the topic area, and all the years that we have available are up there right now. So for most of the indicators, it's data through 2018.
The only one that we don't have through 2018 is our education data, which should be coming in the next month when we can get back into the office and look at that data.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I'm going to
Got it?
stop recording and happy to take any